Hazbin Hotel has been taunting me in the back of my mind for ages. The questionable character designs, the poor writing choices, all of it has left me feeling crazy. If you're not as chronically online as I am, let me give you some context. On October 28th, 2019, the Hazbin Hotel animated pilot was published on YouTube to the VivziePop channel. The pilot is about the Princess of Hell and daughter of Lucifer, Charlie, creating a hotel to redeem sinners. The pilot was full of a large, colorful cast, some of the characters even being from VivziePop's OCs from previous stories. The pilot had a violent chokehold on younger me when I first watched it. I was never in the fandom or anything, but the idea of animating your own OCs into a TV show enamored me. I watched it a few more times, but Hazbin Hotel eventually left my mind completely. That is, until December 2023, when the show's first season was officially released. Hazbin had been picked up by A24 in 2020 and began production soon after. The characters were redesigned, and parts of the pilot were rewritten. I did watch the entire season, but this time I was older and my standards for writing were much higher. I liked the songs a lot, but the writing choices haunted me. I couldn't enjoy the show without the story annoying me to no end. Recently, Season 2 was released, and I decided to watch it and see if it had improved at all. Fortunately, the songs and amazing actors continued to carry the show, but the writing still suffered the same issues that ruined it for me in the first place. A common trend that emerged from the release of both seasons is the redesigning of the main cast. Alongside the writing, a significant critique of the show is how bad the designs look from a professional perspective. I had never tried drawing any of the Hazbin Hotel characters, nor have I even thought about redesigning them, but with the release of Season 2, I've been incapable of getting this show out of my mind. I'm unsure if it's the songs or just the wasted potential of the plot, but it's been driving me insane. With this new brainworm, I have finally decided to give in and redesign the main cast. Alongside the designs, I also plan to minorly rewrite the plot to the best of my abilities, hopefully doing it justice.
Look, I apologized 14 times and I sent a whole flock of duck emojis.
Like I said earlier, Charlie is supposed to be the Princess of Hell and daughter of Lucifer. Her main goal is to create a hotel to redeem sinners in hell in hopes that it will stop heaven from coming down and performing exorcisms every year. I feel that it is impossible to rewrite Hazbin Hotel without discussing the significant issues with the show itself. Unfortunately, it's a common trend in any series that men will be more popular than any female character, and Hazbin Hotel also falls victim to this. It is often argued that the male characters are given much more development than any of the women. Even though Hazbin Hotel is marketed as a woman-centered series, the men are consistently given more interesting personalities than anyone else. While Charlie is the protagonist of the show, she is often affected by this exact thing. Her character is flat and has unclear motivations and goals. In one episode, she acts like the hotel is her pride and joy, and then completely forgets about her guests in the next episode. One of the main causes of this is the cast. The majority of the plot and characters were VivziePop's own OCs and stories. And as she tries to fit them all into the show, it begins to feel extremely oversaturated, and there isn't enough time focusing on the main characters. The first step in my rewrite would be to reduce the cast, but since I'm not actually doing anything tangible with my rewrite, I won't go into too much detail about that. My second step, however, is to flip the seasons around. In Season 2, a popular group of sinners called the V's try to rally up hell to overthrow heaven and stop the exorcisms themselves. I think this would be a great leading conflict at the beginning of the story. While Charlie is trying to pitch her hotel to heaven, she is also simultaneously stopping her people from rising against her. This would also move Vox's entire arc to the beginning and make him the main villain of Season 1. The actual Season 1 villain is the Archangel Adam, and I feel like going from such a big bad to then a regular sinner just felt so jarring to me. Charlie had no issue fighting angels, but then struggles against someone below her on the hell hierarchy. Now, about Charlie's actual redesign. Looking at her official design, one of the main Hazbin Hotel critiques becomes clear. The show loves the color red, and of course it does. It's supposed to be hell. But when every character has the same 3 colors, it makes it nearly impossible to distinguish any of them. Hell, even the pilot designs have at least a little more variety. I really enjoy how Charlie is overly positive in a place full of violence and anguish. For my Charlie redesign, I decided to keep it relatively the same. I think with a few tweaks, it actually works fairly well. I did, however, want to give her more hellish motifs that I feel should be more apparent in the literal princess. Her original design is, I guess, supposed to be inspired by porcelain dolls, but many artists often make her a goat instead. To me, this makes so much more sense. She has hooves and some sort of animal nose, and a goat is one of the most recognized symbols for hell. All the Hazbin characters suffer from the same symbolism issue where they're all slightly alluding to something, but they never really get there. Alastor is a deer, but you can barely tell. Fox is somehow supposed to have shark motifs, and yet it's impossible to make that assumption from his design. I think if Vivziepop committed to the doll aspect of her design, it could be amazing. One of the V's, Velvet, however, is already supposed to be a doll, and I'm trying to avoid any designs getting too close. In conclusion, I think her outfit already fits her goals for the hotel, plus the fact that people are starting to lose the respect you would normally have for your princess. The only part of her personality I would change is probably just making her care more about the hotel. For a show called Hazbin Hotel, they focus so much on everything outside of it. My Vaggie redesign might be the most controversial one out of the entire lineup. I've thought about going back and making it more accurate to the original, but at the same time, as my personal rewrites, I don't care that much. Vaggie looks like this, and according to the wiki, she's supposed to be a moth. My symbolism issue is already apparent again, because there is no world in which I would assume she's a moth. Spoiler alert, in Season 1, Vaggie is revealed to be a fallen angel and exorcist instead of a sinner. And part of me feels like a moth has nothing to do with that. But then, I had this amazing idea of completely changing her species. In my rewrite, all the exorcists are going to be birds. I had this idea where they use both their spears, but also the talons on their feet to attack and kill sinners. My Vaggie redesign is supposed to be an owl. Lou is the exorcist lieutenant, and I think it could be really fun to make her some sort of hawk to match my bird idea. And maybe like, different species of birds could represent different ranks. Like owls could be the lowest rank, or at least pretty low. And of course, that's the tier my Vaggie comes from. Now on to the main rewrite. Vaggie's biggest issue is her complete lack of personality. Even on the wiki, which literally has every hidden piece of lore of every character written somewhere, all of her personality revolves around Charlie. She likes whatever Charlie likes. She likes helping Charlie and protecting Charlie and running Charlie's hotel while Charlie does whatever the hell she wants. I think this could be an interesting take on her loyalty, but once again, the writers literally do nothing with it. After Vaggie becomes a fallen angel, Charlie gives her first aid and brings her home. I want my Vaggie to have an almost unhealthy obsession with Charlie after this. Oh, and I'm going to cut their relationship from the beginning of the story. I already feel like there's no chemistry between them, and I think it would be way better to explore their romance as the plot continues. Vaggie's obsession with Charlie comes from her feeling like she's in debt to her, like she needs to protect Charlie, or she's failing to live up to her purpose. Do I sense angst about her angel past? I think Vaggie's character would be the beginning of exploring the idea that heaven is not as good as it seems. Hazbin Hotel itself immediately starts with introducing Adam as a terrible person, which really makes you question the point of heaven. I want heaven to be so squeaky clean that they use soap to wash out any inch of sin. I want the angels to be so stereotypically good that it flips back around and makes them almost more crazed than any of the sinners. I think that Vaggie's overwhelming loyalty will show Charlie how heaven isn't as good as it seems, and how they beat angelic morals into them. At some point in the story, my Vaggie will nearly get herself killed trying to protect Charlie from something, and it completely sends Charlie off. And I think this will be like the final straw that makes Vaggie realize how much heaven messed her up, and finally pushes her to have her own personality. The show kind of does this with her tiny name arc in Season 2. She starts the season with her name spelled Vaggie, and then ends it with it being spelled Vaggi. Wow, what a great character arc for a character with such potential. It's meant to represent her finding herself after being an exorcist, but it's just such a nothing burger. I want my Vaggie to still have her heaven issues with her, and be a consistent part of her character. For the angel reveal being so big in Season 1, they barely do anything with it outside of the one scene. Even Charlie just forgives her immediately. The way Hazbin waste Vaggie generally makes me so upset. But, onto the actual redesign. As I said, I decided to make her a bird instead of a moth. I wanted to make her a soldier/knight as a reference to her exorcist past, and also just her role in the hotel. I feel like she's fending off the hotel from anyone threatening its safety, or more specifically, Charlie's safety. Her knight design represents her attachment to her angel self. I feel like later in the story, after she finds herself, she would slowly change her outfit closer to what she has in the show's design. Either the 2000s clothes she has in some designs, or some hotel/bellhop thing. I also decided to get rid of pretty much all the red in her design. I think it could be kind of cool for her to slowly reintroduce the red as she begins to accept hell. Basically, my entire Vaggie rewrite is to tell her story through her actual design, rather than telling the audience. I honestly like my design a lot more than I was expecting. I think if it wasn't for the way she was written, Vaggie would have been a way more important character to me. But she's never going to have a meaningful arc because Hazbin already has way too many characters they're trying to focus on.
Alastor!
Alastor is, unfortunately, the most recognizable character of Hazbin Hotel, and that is not a compliment. Just look at him. When people critique the designs, he's the main one they talk about. I love the idea of his character, but he's just so ugly I can't take him seriously. This is another instance where I must give context for why this design just doesn't work. First of all, if you know any VivziePop lore, you know she had a webcomic called Zoophobia. Alastor actually originated from Zoophobia as a cannibalistic deer, looking like this. He was later included in VivziePop's concepts for Hazbin Hotel and officially became the radio demon. One of the biggest issues people have with Alastor are the symbols they use in his spooky, evil magic. I myself cannot say much about the cultural appropriation, but it's important to see why people have problems with it. These symbols come from voodoo, an ancestral religion from West Africa. These symbols are often used in extremely harmful stereotypes against Africans and fetishized in all kinds of media. It's not unreasonable that people wish the symbols weren't used at all. I genuinely feel like it wouldn't worsen the show at all if they used generic 40s radio symbols instead. With this, VivziePop has stated that Alastor is mixed-race Creole, and his design doesn't show that at all. I would never look at this and get a deer from it. I'd just get a stereotypical furry design, and I definitely wouldn't get a mixed man. While people's appearances change a lot in Hell, I don't think it's crazy that I wish he had darker skin and more accurate features. Hell, even this human form is lacking. That's the main thing people fix in their redesigns, alongside his atrocious color palette. I love the color red, don't get me wrong, but this just hurts my eyes. I mentioned this with Charlie, and I don't understand why they only use this one shade of neon red. That's the first thing I decided to fix in my own Alastor, giving him a deep brown monotone palette instead. For the rewrite, I want to discuss the concept of overlords in Hazbin. There is way too much world building in this show that is just never explained, and hey, maybe that's my fault because I haven't seen the sister show Helluva Boss in years, but that's unimportant. Did you know there's like different rings of hell representing the sins? I didn't know that until people online told me. Is that my fault? Probably, but at the same time, I wish the show had mentioned it at least once. Most of this information is hidden away in VivziePop's old live streams, and thank goodness for the people on the wiki who catalog all this, or otherwise I'd be lost. Anyway, overlords. Let me give a short lore summary if you've never seen the show. The king and queen of hell are Lucifer and Lilith. 7 years ago, Lilith left and then the exorcism started. Now, Charlie doesn't talk to either of her parents and is struggling with the hotel. At the same time, there are these characters called overlords that hold some of the strongest powers in hell, each with their own factions. In my rewrite, the overlords will be exactly under Lucifer and Lilith instead of just doing their own thing. I want the king and queen to actually have a role in the politics of hell. Lucifer usually keeps to himself, but Lilith is the most esteemed power in the region. All of the overlords will answer to Lilith. While they, of course, still do whatever they want, they usually do things for Lilith. Don't ask me about the specifics, I didn't get that deep into it. But then basically, once Lilith leaves, it all goes to hell, and the overlords stop getting along, which also just feeds into the chaos Charlie has to fix. Especially since Lucifer seems to retreat from the limelight after his wife is gone. I also wanted to make Lilith leave a little longer than 7 years ago, because to me, it just feels so short when all the characters are literally immortal. If you're going to keep the 7-year thing, I want the effects of her disappearance still really recent instead of just one-off comments. Now I can discuss Alastor's role in all of this. He is an overlord in the original show, and I want to keep that in my rewrite. Only now he is very close to Lilith, and she uses him and his radio show to keep the peace in hell. Maybe he hypnotizes sinners or something, I don't exactly know. Maybe he keeps the peace with Vox, and that's how they got close initially. Honestly, I'm a little unsure how I would fit my Alastor into the whole, deal with Rosie thing they revealed in Season 2. I love Rosie, but the fact that she's so unimportant to the show makes me so mad. Before it was revealed that Rosie gave Alastor all his power, a lot of people theorized he actually had to deal with Lilith, so I'd probably use that in my rewrite actually. The overlords likely all have some sort of deal with Lilith when they're under her that keeps them in place. My Alastor's role in the show will probably be the exact same. He funds the hotel and acts as a minor villain while still being part of the main cast, but he'll still make his deal with Charlie and everything. I actually feel like that part of the show is done pretty well. There's a reason Alastor is one of the most popular characters in Hazbin. On to the actual design. Like I said, I decided to go with a dark red or brown color palette, and then I gave him an accurate 1940s suit. That's another issue the characters have. The sinners specifically all have lives before hell where they lived in a specific time period, and then when they go to hell, they all have the same ugly suit and bow tie. I try to keep the other designs as correct as possible with their time periods. Alastor had a radio show when he was alive and was turned to a radio demon in hell. I put an old 40s radio on his chest, and I had this idea that all his speaking just comes from that rather than his mouth. And like his mouth never opens when he speaks, maybe? Alastor was shot in a forest by a hunter after being mistaken for a deer. That's kind of how all the motifs work in Hazbin. They're usually a pun based on their life or death. Fox has a TV head because a TV fell on him and electrocuted him to death. Anyway, I made his horns way bigger and moved the ears to make them fit better. Also, speaking of ears, I absolutely hated how they were the main thing on top of his head, so I completely redid his hair and made it more time period accurate. I also did my best to try and make him actually look mixed, at least more than before. I'm really hoping his design is as clear as I feel it is. For a show about people from different time periods going to hell, it's so incredibly bad at making those times obvious. I wanted my Alastor to have that creepy serial killer vibe that he's supposed to have.
No, Angel, don't blame yourself.
Okay, so like Alastor, all the next characters I'm talking about are sinners, meaning they all had normal lives before coming to hell. This is very important to note because we want these characters' past to be obvious in their designs. Just like how I tried making Alastor's outfit fit into the 40s, I need to keep all the eras in mind. Angel Dust is definitely a fan favorite character, or at least my favorite when I first watched the pilot in 2019. Addict genuinely had such a chokehold on me when it came out. I loved that video so much. Poison and Losing Streak are also amazing songs. I kind of just love all the music. Angel Dust is supposed to be a spider, hence the multiple arms. A fun part of his design that's shown in the pilot is the fact that he can just spawn new arms whenever he needs them. So while he usually just has the 4, 2 more can appear when he needs the extra hands. Angel Dust is also from the 30s to the 40s. According to the wiki, all of his family are spiders because of their web of crime. You can definitely tell in some of his older art that he had way more mob boss elements, but now it's been a little pushed more towards his life and career in hell instead. In hell, Angel Dust is an adult film actor and drag queen. I actually kind of have no notes on Angel's drag design shown in Season 2. She's actually really cute, especially compared to some of the horrendous outfits they give Angel sometimes. Angel Dust has a contract with Valentino, one of the V's and also an overlord. Val is the main guy in charge of any adult films in hell. All the V's have their own specialization. Fox Television, Val is film, and Velvet is social media. However, it still suffers from the show's oversaturation of characters, and it's never really given enough time to develop. In Season 1, Angel Dust is pretty much given an entire episode to introduce his conflicts, but it's only further explored in short quips in later episodes. Another part I mourn about Angel and pretty much all of the sinners is their pasts. For a show about redeeming sin, it would be really cool to do some deep dives on the reasons they all went to hell. According to the wiki, and some videos on Bibsy Pop's channel, Angel has a fraternal twin named Molly. She actually appears a few times in the show whenever they visit heaven. I find her really cute, and I would love to hear about how she fits into Angel's past. Unfortunately, his pre-hell life is never brought up, ever. For my design, I wanted to focus more on shifting his look back to the 40s. I think one of the coolest parts of Hazbin is the variety of sinners. Some you can tell came from the 1800s, and others clearly have a 2000s look. I really wanted to continue that for Angel and make it obvious where he's from. I was hoping it would create a more apparent difference between his everyday self and his drag persona. I did decide to get rid of the pink in his design. While pretty much everyone has the same shade of red, Angel is just pink instead. I normally would love pink, but it's just so close to that red that it doesn't stop any potential eye strain. All of my designs are keeping to a limited warm palette, so I wanted to refrain from having Angel stand out with the pink. Instead, I went with a deep red, and I think it keeps the right vibe and fits the mob boss thing he's supposed to have. To incorporate more spider motifs, I decided to give him those like spider legs at his hips. I think my version wouldn't do the disappearing limb thing, and he'll only have the 4 arms and then the smaller legs. I also gave him a spider abdomen to make it incredibly obvious that he was a spider. A good chunk of my designs for Angel Dust and also Alastor take some inspiration from @Courtwalk on TikTok. Their Hazbin redesigns are probably my favorite, especially their Charlie and Alastor. They're so nice to look at. These dots under Angel's eyes are apparently supposed to be symbolic of spider eyes, but I wanted to make my spider eyes clearer, and later just ended up giving him the extra dots to pay homage to his original design anyway. I don't think I'd actually rewrite anything for Angel Dust. If my rewrite were to focus more on heaven versus hell dynamics, it could be sick to include a short arc of Angel getting in contact with his sister. I think dedicating time and episodes to Angel would be integral to the story, but with how huge the cast is, it's just so hard to include everything. I was worried about his design initially, but in the end, I feel like it actually looks really good. I think I maintained most of the original vibes and conveyed his personality fairly well. I would maybe go back and add more detail, but my designs are usually pretty simplified anyway. Hopefully, I did him justice.
Sometimes I kill mother bugs in front of their children as a warning to others.
Nifty is really just a nothing character. She's technically part of the main cast, but doesn't get anything outside of being the comedy relief. Nifty is the Hazbin Hotel's violent, sadistic maid. After Alastor begins working at the hotel, he calls in Nifty's help as a favor. But outside of that, there isn't really much else to her. She has an obsession with bad boys, being fixated on Sir Pentious, a hotel resident, for a single episode until she finds out he's a wimp. She did technically kill Adam at the end of season 1, but they play it off as just another one of her violent gags. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with her just being a comedy relief, but I wish we had more to work off of. Our 3 female characters in the main cast are just so flat. According to the wiki, she's Japanese, I think a 50s housewife, and a bug. So like all the other sinners, I will be pushing her design to actually match that. Also, according to the wiki, she is supposed to be American, so I reference these kind of 50s American housewife ads to base my design off of. I've seen people say she went to hell for killing multiple husbands, and while I know this isn't canon, I think this could be a fun thing for my rewrite. Just to give a little bit of context to her past, like I really want for everyone. Since I unfortunately don't have much to say about Nifty, I might use a little bit of this time to discuss the plot of my rewrite. As I mentioned with Charlie, I am flipping the seasons. Season 1 will now be about the V's. Adam will tell Charlie that the exorcisms are coming in 6 months instead of 12, and Vox will use this as a chance to rally up sinners. Instead of just focusing on Vox, I wanted to give a fairly equal spotlight to each V. So Velvet getting the screen time she deserves, and maybe all of them getting a couple episodes maybe. I just really like the idea of Charlie advertising her hotel against the popularity of Vox Tech. A lot of the minor plot lines in season 1 can probably stay, like Angel and Husk, and Carmilla's angel killing, but the heaven stuff would maybe move to later, I think. I really just want the V's anti-heaven cult to be primary. In the finale, Adam would probably be the one to decapitate Vox and humble his god complex. This then leads to Charlie having to be the one to defend Hell. And while this is the Nifty section, I'm unsure if I want her to still be the one to kill Adam. I really want Charlie to actually shine in the show. Maybe Adam almost kills Vaggie or even Nifty, and then she goes all demon mode and actually saves the hotel. This sets up a major conflict with Heaven later for season 2, and gives the hotel some more notoriety. I don't know if I still want Lucifer to be important in season 1. If my season 2 is entirely Heaven focused, it would make way more sense to just push him to later, which might be what I do instead. But back to Nifty. Her color palette is basically the same, just with more yellow. As you can tell, I'm trying my best to keep their palettes as accurate as possible. Some artists do some amazing designs with an amazing variety of colors that aren't just the eye-straining red. Mine is not that, however. The main ones I really changed were just Angel and Alastor, but they still fit the reds nonetheless. She's way more obviously the 1950s housewife and incorporated many more bug elements. She's got antennas and these little bug spike things on her arms and legs. Overall, Nifty isn't a difficult character to redesign. My rewrite would likely not build off her character much. The immense number of characters is already an issue I'm not going to feed into.
Oh! Oh yeah! Sure thing! Except you tied me to the fucking trash!
Husk is one of those characters where I really love the idea, but his design just falls so flat for me. He's kind of like Alastor, as they're both Tumblr sexy men engineered in a lab. Husk is a very internet OC design, and normally I wouldn't have any issues with that, but when a design is meant to be animated for a professional TV show, it just doesn't work anymore. Referencing the wiki, Husk was designed by Vivzy Pop's sister. His original design is still pretty reminiscent of what he has now, a cat with wings. A lot of people critique the wings in this design because they just feel so useless to his character. He's a cat to mock his bitter personality, which I find pretty fun, but the wiki never mentions the purpose for the wings. A lot of the weird aspects of the other characters are usually able to be justified in one way or another, but this just never makes sense. Because he was first designed by Vivziepop's sister, I totally understand keeping a lot of the initial traits. I don't know the details of Husk's development, but I think it's kind of cute that both sisters had their OCs in the show. Even with that, it still makes sense to me that a lot of people get rid of his wings. Some designers can incorporate them really well, but I'm unsure if I'm one of those. At first I really tried to incorporate them, you might see that in the time-lapse, but it just makes the design so busy. I don't know how to make it look good. Luckily, many other redesigns keep them fine, so I'm not really worried about it. The other two main elements of Husk's character are his casino and magician motifs. At first, I genuinely wasn't aware he was supposed to be a magician. It kind of makes sense with a top hat and bow tie, but since so many of the characters wear both of these already, I just assumed it was no different. For the casino part, the wiki says that while he was alive, Husk grew up in a casino in the early to mid 20th century. In Hell, he now owns casinos and eventually becomes an overlord like Alastor. I honestly think the gambling stuff is really cool. His original design has a few playing card symbols, and I made sure to include them in my own design. In an act of desperation to feed his gambling addiction, Husk sells his soul to Alastor, losing his overlord status. He is brought into the hotel as the bartender by Alastor, just like Nifty. And it's shown in Season 1 that Husk can't talk back to Alastor without his soul being on the line. We don't really know much about Husk from the show itself. Like Angel Dust, I would love to see some stuff about his life before Hell. 99% of the info I know about him I just got from the wiki. I don't really need to change much about his story in my rewrite. I really like his casino thing going on. Love in a Bottle might just be the best song in Season 2, especially with Losing Streak right after, and his personality is honestly pretty fun. I like his annoyed, pessimistic nature. He's basically just like Angel and Nifty, where I need just a little bit of more backstory for them. Because for a show on redeeming sins when you're alive, we literally only know about Alastor and Vox's past lives. For my own redesigns, I kinda just wanted to show more of his disheveled gambler traits. I also got rid of the bow tie and top hat. I think his magician stuff is actually kind of cool, but I'm trying my best to get rid of the top hats on all the men. Maybe when he's still an overlord in Hell, Husk actually looks like a stereotypical magician, but as he loses all his public respect, he just lets it all go. I was also able to show the card symbols pretty well, just a few on his clothes and a card in his pocket. Luckily, I was able to keep the red, black, and white color scheme without completely overpowering the viewer. That's still the biggest struggle of this entire video. It was hard for me to keep the reds without making everyone blend into each other. The main reason the red doesn't really work in his original design is just those stupid wings. I played with them a lot at the end, but I genuinely couldn't make wings work well because making them red or black just felt wrong for the rest of the drawing. I do think in the end my Husk still works, however, because I was able to get that red in there without giant red wings in your face. I don't really have much to say about Husk. He looks like the disheveled alcoholic gambler cat he's shown to be in the show. I think if I were to redesign him one more time, I would maybe attempt the wings again just to keep the design faithful, but at the same time, I really don't mind how it ended up looking.
Almost there. Now, presenting the magic-tastical back-flipping rubber duck!
While I relatively like most of the Hazbin characters, none of them are like my all-time favorite. I like the idea of Alastor, but he's too ugly for me to care that much. I think I could absolutely love Vaggie, but I mostly just like my rewrite version more than her actual character. There was really nothing making me care about this series other than music. That is, until Jeremy Jordan showed up, playing the King of Hell himself, Lucifer. I haven't mentioned the voice actors much in this video, but the Hazbin Hotel cast is full of amazing people. If you know anything about musical theater, Jeremy Jordan, Christian Borle, Alex Brightman, Erica Henningsen, and many of the others are some insane people to all have on the same cast. Jeremy Jordan especially has a special place in my heart because of Newsies. Lucifer himself is also just kind of my type of character. He's stupid, he's blonde, he's a desperate yearner for his missing wife. I cannot explain to you how many edits I watch of just Jeremy Jordan yearning songs. But unfortunately, just because he's my favorite, he's not spared from the history of ugly designs in the show. Just look at this. I think he's cute sometimes, but he actually might be one of the worst designs in the show. The ridiculous suit, the bow tie, the top hat. To be honest, Jeremy Jordan might be the only reason I love him as much as I do, because his look just drives me crazy. Lucifer is literally the king of hell, so I wanted my design to reflect that. Like I said earlier, I wanted Lilith to be the main leader of hell, while Lucifer just minds his own business. I actually didn't think about any potential Lilith designs because as of right now, she hasn't even been shown to the audience once. There are pictures of her scattered in the show, but it's unclear if she still actually looks like this in season 3. Because spoiler alert, I think she's supposed to be in heaven in the show now. I'd probably want my Lilith to be goat-like, similarly to Charlie, and I'd maybe not make her blonde, just to set her apart from Lucifer. I don't really know yet. In the show, Lucifer is shown to be spiraling in an isolated depression. He just sits in his castle making rubber ducks until Charlie contacts him for help. She calls him about the angels, since, he used to be one, and Lucifer helps her set up a meeting for heaven. Since in my timeline, heaven isn't key until season 2, my Lucifer probably wouldn't appear until 2. I want him to be one of those looming, mysterious characters for the entirety of the first season. Every time he's mentioned, he's alluded to be this evil, powerful guy, but then we see him, and he's just a strange, depressed lunatic. Adam is killed in the season 1 finale, Heaven is pissed, and Charlie needs to call her dad for help. He might not set up a meeting, but he probably helps her with some sort of heaven knowledge. Just like Vaggie, Lucifer is one of those characters to show Charlie the worst parts of heaven. Like, I'm picturing a duet between them where Lucifer shows her his worst scars, basically more than anything, but sadder and deeper. Like, oh my god, imagine a memory sequence where Charlie witnesses firsthand how heaven ripped out his wings and threw him out. Maybe there's even some crazy violence with it that makes her second guess everything. I think if a character like Serpentius did die and go to heaven in my rewrite, he'd probably be treated terribly. Another reason that heaven just sucks. Final Lucifer lore notes, I think I really like the part where he can't hurt sinners actually. Some people really dislike how they nerfed him and basically made him a useless king, but just hear me out on this. Imagine Lucifer being able to hurt sinners, but every attempt to touch them just damages him as well. Like when he tries to punch Vox in the face in season 2, it flips around and he feels the same pain that Vox feels. I think it's just such a good way to show that punishment, because yeah, he's extremely isolated in hell, but I think I really wanted to terrorize him more. Since Lucifer is a fallen angel, I wanted him to have the same bird elements I gave Vaggie. I gave him a similar bird nose and these bird wing ear things. I think it works pretty well, considering that his face has always seemed really lacking without a nose. You don't gotta give him like a realistic one, but his flat face really just makes him feel more ugly to me. I also feel like the bird aspect just gives him something to work with visually, because he barely looks like any other angel shown in heaven. It really just makes it obvious that he has a stupid OC design compared to the professionally made background characters. For his outfit, I just wanted it more kingly. Who the hell looks at this and imagines a king? Like, genuinely, what is he wearing? He looks like a bag of popcorn. He also has that evil top hat and bow tie I mentioned a bit ago. You're tasked with making a design for such a cool character like the literal fallen angel, and then he looks like he just came out of the Tumblr sexy man factory. I gave him this big cape that is like a little reminiscent of his original coattails. It has fur that I think really cemented the king look I was going for. The cape itself is messed up and burnt at the bottom, almost like it burned up as he entered hell. I also added way more black to his color palette. I think it's just another thing to really contrast from however he looked in heaven. While angels are always pristine and cover themselves in bright whites, Lucifer wears black to almost mourn his past. I did keep the white pants, however, but they just felt right to the design. Maybe they represent the parts of heaven he still holds on to. You might notice that I did, in fact, keep that stupid top hat. It's kind of a Husk situation where I wanted my design to be as faithful as possible, but this time I actually succeeded, unlike Husk's wings. While I don't agree with giving everyone a top hat, I think it actually might be the strongest part of Lucifer's original design. I really like the snake and apple motifs. It's like one of the few motifs they managed to make noticeable to the audience, and of course I just decided to make it black. If I were to get rid of the top hat, I would probably just replace it with a stereotypical king's crown. I almost didn't draw Lucifer at all, but it felt so wrong to not do my literal favorite character. And I'm just so glad I ended up doing him. He really completes the lineup so well. I like how his extravagant outfit really contrasts Charlie's simple hotel getup in such a nice way. This has officially been the most ambitious redesign collection I've ever attempted. It's one thing to just redesign characters, but it's much more difficult to do that and reimagine the story into something better. When you look at them all together, they aren't necessarily the most animator friendly, but like, I wouldn't say the originals were that friendly either. I was very scared initially because I really only draw humans. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to execute the correct vibes, especially Angel, Dust, and Husk, but it doesn't look half bad. Instagram really liked my Angel and Husk designs actually. The video blew up like crazy. I was really surprised. I really hope all of you enjoyed watching me piece these designs together. I hope my minor rewrites were faithful enough to the story to make sense. Let me know your favorites down below. If any of you are interested, I've already been debating doing designs of the V's or any of the side characters. If there's actually a market for it, I might do them next. Thank you guys so much. Hope to see you again next time.
We talked a lot of leaving, didn't think you'd get that far. This is a first-rate town, you know. You just can't see berries.